Hey, good evening. Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Lighthouse Community Church Together in the Word series. It's where we're going chapter a day through the Bible. And this month, the month of June, we are going to be going through a section of the Psalms. We've started at Psalm 101, and we'll stick with that a chapter of the day through the end of the month. And this week, obviously, it's the first part of June, so we've got Psalm 101, 102, and 103. And what an interesting triad that those three Psalms, when taken together, what they form. They form, as you're reading them, you're seeing the writer express himself to God, respond to God through his words. And there's each psalm has a different approach really to worship, and it's a great picture of what using our voice, how we proclaim God's glory and how we worship Him. Between these three psalms, we see the writer give praise to God, directly to God. We see the writer seeking God, asking for help, and then also the Psalm 103, we see the writer proclaiming God. He's talking about blessing the Lord. And that's it. Though everything is to be done unto the Lord, the idea of blessing the Lord is not just to Him directly, it's more something of proclaiming it to those around you. So let's just take a look at each one of those individually, just briefly here this evening. Psalm 101. It's singing praises to God, and right away at the start of the psalm, the writer identifies what he praises God for. He says, verse 1, I will sing of loving kindness and justice. To you, Lord, I will sing praises. And so he is praising God for both the justice and the loving kindness of God. Justice and loving kindness, they're not separate. They go hand in hand. A loving society is also a just society. A loving person is also a just person who wants to see justice done, who wants to see justice accomplished, because how unloving would it be to not require justice for sin or for evil? And the writer here praises God for His loving kindness and justice. And interesting, it's pretty cool. Singing of such praises compels the writer to reflect such praises in his own living. It's as we see in the Psalm 101, he starts talking about how he will reflect that justice, how he will reflect that loving kindness. He says in verse 2, I will walk within my house in the integrity of my heart. I will set no worthless thing before my eyes. A perverse heart, verse 4, shall depart from me. I will know no evil. And this obviously was written by one of the kings. It's most likely attributed to David, but he says, verse 5, whoever secretly slanders his neighbor, him I will destroy. David takes sin very seriously in the way he rules and the way he responds. And so reflecting upon the praises of God and praising Him compels him to live after the character of that which he is praising. And so that's an effect that praise should have on us, that when we reflect on the character of God and we praise Him for who He is, that should translate into us living out that very same life, the same life that God lives out, that causes us to praise Him. That same character should be reflected within us. Psalm 102 is a different cry, different response to God directly, and that is crying out to God for help. In Psalm 102, we see his situation. The writer his situation is obviously dire, and he is in great need. Look at verses 3 through 5. He says, for my days have been consumed in smoke. My bones have been scorched like a hearth. My heart has been smitten like grass and has withered away. Indeed, I forget to eat my bread because of the loudness of my groaning. My bones cling to my flesh. He's feeling both an inner turmoil and anxiety. But also, it's not just the inner turmoil he has, but there's also there's danger from outside of him, of those who would oppose him. Look at verses 7 through 9. I lie awake. I have become like a lonely bird on a housetop. My enemies have reproached me all day long. Those who deride me have used my name as a curse, for I've eaten ashes like bread and mingled my drink with weeping. David feels, or the writer here, I'm sorry, the writer is feeling incredible pressure internally and externally, and that causes him to cry out to God. And that should be the natural response of our heart to worry, to anxiety, to fear, to danger, is first and foremost to cry out to God. Now, interesting, this turmoil that the writer feels, what does it do within him? It causes him to focus on the greatness and glory of God. As he gives his pain, his anguish, his fear, as he gives it to God, as he lifts it up to God, he in turn, he thinks about how good God is. Look at verse 12, Psalm 102. But, now it's a key word, but you, O Lord, in contrast to what I'm going through, how I'm feeling, and what I'm experiencing, but you, O Lord, abide forever, and your name to all generations. You will arise and have compassion on Zion, for it's time to be gracious, for the appointed time has come. As he talks about the eternality of God, he recognizes that his goodness is not going to run out. That the writer is not going to find himself in a place when God's not going to be there. It's a very, as someone who has lost a parent, it's very intimidating. It's very sad. It's when you lose a parent, and what you would normally go to that parent for and reach out to them and seek them for help or ask for their guidance or their advice or just relationship, and then you realize you go to turn to them and you're like, oh, they're not there. I've got to do this on my own. The fact that the writer says, but you, O Lord, in contrast to what I'm going through, you're forever. You're always going to be there for me to turn to, whether it's the personal anxiety within me or the dangers from outside of me, which the two probably go together. His distress caused him to focus on the greatness and glory of God. And then Psalm 103, proclaiming God's greatness and goodness for others to hear. He says in Psalm 103, verse 1, bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget none of his benefits. That word bless, it's to bless God, to when we say I bless the name of God, it's proclaiming it not directly to him, but it's proclaiming him to others to hear. And what the writer here, what David is proclaiming, is God's goodness in forgiving sin and his compassion for sinners. Look at verse 3. As soon as he says, bless the Lord, O my soul, he says, who pardons all your iniquities. Verse 4, who redeems your life from the pit. Verse 8, the Lord is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in loving kindness. One of the greatest acts of worship is to proclaim the gospel, to proclaim God's grace to sinners and God's favor, unmerited, undeserved favor to sinners in saving them. The first three Psalms that we look at this week, Psalm 101, Psalm 102, Psalm 103, three distinct ways of which we use our mouth to proclaim, to worship God, to give him glory. We sing praises to him, we seek his help in time of need, and we proclaim the gospel to those around us. I sure hope this has been beneficial to you. I certainly hope that you're following along a psalm a day with us through the month of June, starting at Psalm 101 for June 1st and going on through the end of the month. And don't forget, please let me know if there's anything I can do to help you out. You have any questions about anything that we're reading, let me know. Reach out to me at my email. You can email me, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I look forward to hearing from you.